Everyone. My name is Joe Shaga, and I am your 2021 Annual Scientific Meeting Program Chair. On behalf of the Program Committee and the AGS family, I couldn't be happier to welcome you to AGS 21 Virtual Annual Scientific Meeting. This is an important opportunity to celebrate who we are, pioneers in advanced illness care for older individuals, to focus on championing interdisciplinary professional teams, eliciting personal care goals, and treating older people as whole persons. Our multi-professional AGS membership includes geriatricians, geriatric nurse practitioners, social workers, family practitioners, physician assistants, pharmacists, internists, physical and occupational therapists, and surgical and medical specialties who are focused on the geriatrics aspects of their specialty. We are clinicians, educators, researchers, and health system leaders. On a personal note, I am delighted that we are coming together in 2021 to learn and grow. Every year, I look forward to the AGS meeting and the community we've created together. This year was no different, and I'm proud of the educational program that we've put together. I'm also proud of the ways in which we rose to the challenge of COVID-19 over this past year. As reflected in the articles we've published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society, Geriatric Nursing, the Journal of Gerontological Nursing, and the Annals of Long-Term Care. The personal stories that we've shared, the assistance we've offered through our peers on My AGS Online, and our tireless advocacy for older people under our care throughout the pandemic. Over the next several days, we'll enjoy an amazing program that includes state-of-the-art clinical geriatric sessions, poster and paper sessions presenting the latest research, and opportunities to network at our special interest groups and sections. One session I encourage you all to attend live is our plenary symposium spotlighting the AGS work to achieve our vision of a future for healthcare that is free of discrimination and bias, with a focus on structural racism and ageism. This session is one of a series of opportunities for members to provide feedback on our work. It also gives us all a chance to pause and reflect on what each one of us can do personally to address injustice and inequity in our society. I know that together we can achieve that vision, and my thanks to all of you for engaging in this endeavor so bravely and boldly. And now for some important acknowledgements. This meeting would not be possible without the generous support of the AGS Health and Aging Foundation and the John A. Hartford Foundation. We also owe a debt of gratitude to our program and research committees, our abstract and proposal reviewers, the AGS board, and our AGS staff. Together, they have transformed this in-person AGS annual scientific meeting into a virtual one, which is not an easy thing to do. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping tips. The AGS 21 virtual meeting platform works best when using Google Chrome or Firefox. Now, I know that you're watching this session before the official start of the meeting. You might be on another browser and thinking you're fine. Trust me, I know from my own experience that we should trust the advice of our meeting hosts. I strongly recommend that if you logged into this session on another browser, you download one of the two that are recommended, log in again, save your login information on that browser. Doing so will help ensure that you can properly access all of our sessions. Of course, don't do that until you've heard from Nancy, Mark, Annie, and Pete. We also recommend logging in 10 to 15 minutes early to ensure that you have complete access to the meeting before our sessions get started. You can make the most of your AGS 21 virtual experience by taking advantage of our chat function. Use our chat to interact with session speakers and other participants attending those sessions, and feel free to ask questions during the presentations. We only ask that you stay on topic when chatting during sessions, out of respect for our speakers and other attendees. Lastly, we invite you to share key learnings, thoughts, and photos on social media. Our official hashtag for Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram is #AGS21. Without further ado, I am thrilled to kick off AGS 21 and pass along the mic to our intrepid CEO, Nancy Lundenberg.
Joe. It's great to see you on Zoom, even as I look forward to seeing you in person in Orlando in 2022. Your leadership has been amazing as we've worked together with you, our program committee members, research committee, moderators, and speakers to pull this 2021 program together. We are recording this session on day 402 of the AGS staff working from home. I am so proud of the way in which our staff has stepped up to the plate, transitioning to a virtual environment that, for many of them, as for many of you, has included virtual schooling as well as virtual work. I think we've all learned how to juggle during this pandemic. So too, it's been our privilege as a staff to work with AGS leaders who are passionate about caring for us all as we age, and who, even in the midst of a pandemic that was bringing new clinical challenges on a daily basis, were always concerned that staff were safe and doing okay. They are representative of you, our members, who truly are our geriatric superheroes. I am hopeful that with the rollout of vaccines, we are at a turning point in the COVID-19 pandemic, and that the lessons we've learned will lead to meaningful changes in how we plan to address the needs of older adults during future pandemics and natural disasters. The AGS will continue its advocacy on this front, working to ensure we are sharing our expertise by nominating members to serve on advisory committees, submitting comments, and providing information that informs public policy. We did this in 2020 with our allocation of scarce resources framework, which informed deliberations around the priority groups for COVID-19 vaccines at the Centers for Disease Control. Sadly, COVID-19 was not the only public health emergency that we encountered in 2020. Our nation grappled with our long history of structural racism following the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. In the wake of their deaths, we are finally in a moment of national reckoning. Nowhere is the structural racism in this nation more evident than in our criminal justice system. Having said that, there is much to be done in healthcare as well, in order to ensure that we are supporting our diverse healthcare workforce and the patients we care for. I am AGS proud of our new initiative focused on the intersectionality of structural racism and ageism. I know that we will be stronger if we work together to achieve our future vision of a world free of discrimination and bias, and am grateful to our members for joining us on this journey. We have always been and always will be a learning organization, and I look forward to continuing to learn together as we work towards achieving our vision. Finally, I would like to put in a word for our trainees. They may not be as visible as in prior years, but I hope you will welcome them by attending Poster Session D at 2:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, May 14th. As you all know, it can be lonely standing by your poster, and this is perhaps more true in a virtual environment where you don't have the community of fellow poster presenters to talk to in those lulls between visitors. This year, we have 245 trainees presenting at this session, and it would be great if our other attendees would swing by to learn about their research. Thanks to everyone who contributed to the AGS Health and Aging Foundation. Because of your generosity, we were able to offer registration relief to trainees attending AGS 21. Your donations also supported development of a portfolio of public education materials specific to COVID-19 and is supporting development of public education materials based on our Cultural Navigator tool for clinicians. I am so appreciative of your support and hope that you will take a minute to visit healthinaging.org to make a donation today. Thank you again for joining us at AGS 21. I'll leave you in the capable hands of our treasurer, Mark Supiano, a fearless finance superhero who also happens to be a geriatrician.
Thank you very much, Nancy. I'm happy to report that despite the cancellation of the 2020 AGS Annual Scientific Meeting due to the pandemic, that the AGS ended fiscal year 2020 with a surplus of $769,949, inclusive of strong investment gains and the booking of a sizable receivable for revenue that is due in future years. Geriatrics Care Online remains an important vehicle for disseminating our electronic and print resources. Sales of publications such as the Geriatrics Review Syllabus and the Geriatrics at Your Fingertips remain profitable revenue streams as do royalties from the Journal of the American Geriatrics Society and our other journals. Solid membership revenue continued to support our public affairs and public policy outreach efforts. In accordance with our bylaws, please know that the AGS has not purchased any real property during the past calendar year. New members who joined us in 2020 have had their names recorded at the national office, and this information is available upon your request. Finally, a bit atypical for the AGS Treasurer Report that usually is focused only on money at this business meeting, I want to articulate my own support for the multi-year, multi-pronged initiative that the AGS is undertaking on the intersectionality of structural racism and ageism. I believe that this work is critical to achieving our future vision for healthcare that is free of discrimination and other types of bias. As a board, we have committed to infusing a broader focus on discrimination and bias across the work that we do, with the goal of embedding that perspective into our DNA. As a relatively small society, this means that we have been leveraging existing investments in our staff and other resources across our portfolio of programs and products, with a commitment to ensuring that our body of work is reflective of this future vision. I am appreciative of Dr. Annie Medina Walpole's personal commitment to this work. And with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce Annie for her final remarks as our outgoing AGS President.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks to all of you for the amazing opportunity to serve as your president. It's truly been an honor and a privilege to lead such a remarkable society and work side by side with the board of directors and the incredible AGS staff. And what a year it's been. I'll now take a few minutes to close my tenure as AGS president by recognizing several important individuals, beginning with our outgoing 2020 and 2021 board members, our outgoing JAGS editor, and our outgoing committee members. Today, we sincerely thank Doctors Lori Jacobs, Sunny Lineber, Patrick Call, Carmel Dyer, Jerome Epplin, and Victor Hirth for their service as AGS board members. Lori, who is on the faculty of Seton Hall, Hackensack Meridian School of Medicine, completed her service as board chair in 2020. In addition to being a past president of the society, Lori capably shepherded us financially as board treasurer and chair of our investment committee. Sunny, who is on the faculty of the University of Colorado, SCAG, School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, is my immediate predecessor as president of the AGS. She's completing her term as board chair, which has spanned a difficult year comprised entirely of Zoom meetings that she's managed with warmth and grace. She's been a wonderful partner as we worked our way through the challenges that this year presented, and we're looking forward to her continued engagement with our work via her service on the AGS Beers Criteria Expert Panel. Like all of our past presidents, we know that we can and will call on Sunny in the future. Patrick, who's on faculty at University of Connecticut Health Center, has served on our audit committee, including chairing it this year, and is the board advisor to our clinical practice and models of care committee, as well as a member of our Healthy Aging Framework writing group. We know that he will continue to be one of our leading voices for health and aging. Carmel, who's on faculty at the McGovern Medical School at UT Health, has been a tireless champion for ethnogeriatrics, including serving as chair of the Ethnogeriatrics Committee. She's a past co-chair of our Council of State Affiliates, and on the AGS board, she served on our audit committee and has been a key advisor for our new initiative addressing the intersection of structural racism and ageism. Jerome, who's retired from over 40 years of private practice in Illinois, has served on our audit committee and is a board advisor to our public education committee. He's been a member of the AGS Beers Criteria and the stepwise approach to multimorbidities in older adults expert panels, as well as serving in a number of other capacities for AGS. During his tenure on the board, Victor left academics to start a geriatrics primary care practice in Columbia, South Carolina. On the board, he served on our investment committee and advised our health systems innovation, economics, and technology committee. Victor also served on a number of AGS committees prior to coming on the board and successfully advocated for a geriatrics loan forgiveness program in South Carolina. We will miss all of our outgoing board members who've made significant contributions to our society, and we look forward to celebrating in person at the May 2022 AGS board meeting. We know that they're all but a phone call or a Zoom call away should we find ourselves in need of their expertise. It is also my great pleasure to thank Dr. William Applegate, who's our outgoing editor-in-chief of the Journal of the American Geriatric Society. Bill is the only editor in the history of JAGS to do an encore stint as editor-in-chief, and he built upon the work of his predecessors to ensure that our journal has continued to thrive and grow even during these turbulent times. This past January, he handed the JAGS reins to Dr. Joseph Oslander, and we are looking forward to seeing the continued growth and evolution of JAGS under Joe's capable leadership in the coming years. Bill will remain on the editorial board, and we are grateful for his continued commitment to JAGS. In 2021, we have a number of outgoing committee members who've contributed their talent and their expertise to all the work that we do. Our position statements, legislative and regulatory comments, reviews of documents from peer organizations, annual meeting program, and a host of other activities are all the better for their involvement. I know that our impact would be far less were it not for these leaders, whom we will certainly miss. As we did in 2020, we'll be thanking them individually on our listserv and on My AGS Online. In 2022, when we are together, our new president, Pete Holman, will ask for a much-deserved round of applause for all of the leaders who completed service during this time of virtual meetings. As always, please know that we are on the lookout for people interested in committee service, and we hope that you'll consider applying. You can find information on how to apply to be a committee member on My AGS Online, and the AGS staff are always ready to answer questions about committee service. This year, as we did in 2020, we're also recognizing our outstanding committee service awardees, AGS members who've made extraordinary contributions to the work of our committees. They will be recognized this year on My AGS Online. Congratulations to you all, and I look forward to congratulating you in person next year. And now for the results of our recent board election. The AGS Nominating Committee, in accordance with our bylaws, presented an agreed upon slate for the office of President-elect and other open seats on the board. The deadline for election ballots was February 28th. I am so pleased to announce that Dr. Michael Harper is our President-elect. Congratulations as well to Drs. Rena Karani and Ramona Rhodes, who are our newest AGS board members, and to Dr. Allison Moore, who was elected to a second term. Lastly, congratulations go out to Dr. Helen Fernandez, who was elected to serve on our nominating committee. We are grateful to all the candidates for agreeing to stand for election and look forward to continuing our work together to improve the care of older adults. In my final act as president, I'd like to thank our AGS leaders, members, and our incredible staff for your dedication and commitment to high quality, person-centered care for older people. It has been a true privilege to lead our society during these turbulent times, not least of all because you've made our work so impactful and so rewarding. I look forward to serving as the chair of the AGS Board of Directors, and perhaps more importantly, to continuing to lead alongside Lena Macaroon and Nancy Lundeberg, our initiative that is focused on the intersection of structural racism and ageism. Like Nancy, I am AGS proud of the work that we are doing. I recognize that we're at just the beginning of what we see as a multi-year, multi-pronged effort, and you should each know that as a society, we are fully committed to this work. We hope that our efforts, in tandem with other work that's on the way, will contribute to achieving our future vision of healthcare that is free of discrimination and other bias. I look forward to hearing from each of you at our plenary symposium on this topic. It's scheduled for 1:30 to 2:30 Eastern Standard Time on Friday, May 14th. Please know also that there will be additional opportunities for all AGS members to weigh in over the summer on this important initiative. And now it's my great pleasure to turn the virtual podium over to my close friend and esteemed colleague, Dr. Peter Holman. the new president of the American Geriatrics Society. With almost 4 decades of geriatrics experience, Dr. Holman's wide-ranging work to improve the health, independence, and quality of life of all older people with a focus on improving payment for geriatrics health professionals takes many forms. He currently serves as Chief Medical Officer for Brown Medicine, the largest nonprofit academic multi-specialty medical group in Rhode Island. He contributes his expertise in payment and geriatrics measures to multiple national and Rhode Island-based committees and advisory groups, including the American Medical Association Specialty Society RBS Update Committee, or RUC, where he is currently serving as vice chair. He's played a key role in the development of recommendations to improve payment for geriatrics under the Medicare Physician Payment Schedule, and we are extremely lucky to have his expertise at the AGS. Dr. Holman also teaches as an assistant clinical professor in the Department of Family Medicine in the Warren Alberts Medical School at Brown University, all while maintaining his own geriatrics primary care practice in East Providence. Dr. Holman's enduring commitment to the AGS dates back to the beginning of his career in medicine when he pursued a geriatrics fellowship at the Roger Williams Medical Center. Since then, Pete served as AGS treasurer, chaired the AGS Public Policy Committee, and represented AGS to the CPT editorial panel, where he was eventually appointed as chair, which I should note meant he no longer represented the AGS. Few members can possibly know the ins and outs of our society or clinician payment quite so well as Pete. Please join me in welcoming our new AGS president, Dr. Peter.
Thanks so much, Annie, for a great job this past year. Not just from me, but from all our society members, staff, and the older we all care for. You may not have had a chance to take the mantle of the AGS president on before the usual audience, but you led us through a difficult year that is now behind us. And most importantly, you are leading an important initiative to make our healthcare system free of discrimination and bias. And of course, as board chair, you are still my boss, so I have to say nice things about you. The AGS 2020 Program Committee met in August 2019. Seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? And they met to create the wonderful program we have this year, and then they worked over the course of this year to be sure the content reflected the state of the sciences in 2021. As 2020 began, we were all set to go to Long Beach. Then, on February 28th, a Washington State nursing facility resident who had grown ill days earlier was identified as having COVID-19. She died a few days after that. On March 11th, a global pandemic was declared. In early April, the AGS made the difficult decision to cancel our meeting. Going virtual in 2020 was not an option with so little lead time to make the conversion. We could not have imagined this at the beginning of 2020, but we have now lost over 560,000 fellow Americans to the COVID pandemic. Nearly a third of these people lived or worked in long-term care facilities. The majority of us have lost patients, and too many have lost colleagues, friends, or family. As a nation, we were ill-prepared for the scale of this pandemic, but you, our members, rose to the occasion. Together, you reworked your clinical responsibility, adapted geriatrics educational curricula, and offered your geriatrics expertise on the front lines across many settings. Many of you also coped with homeschooling and caring for your loved ones. You did so with grace and humility. And despite all of this, you found time to respond to queries from colleagues on My AGS Online and to cheer them up and cheer them on in their work. You shared new lessons learned as you set up telehealth systems, rethought how you would educate and evaluate trainees, and modified your own research to reflect a world turned upside down by this pandemic. Following hard on the heels of COVID-19, the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery sparked peaceful nationwide protests that were focused on driving meaningful and lasting change in our justice system. The AGS has always stood against all discrimination and bias, even as we have focused our work on eliminating ageism in healthcare. To meet this momentous national moment, we knew that we needed to articulate a vision for the healthcare of the future being free from all discrimination and bias. More importantly, we knew that we needed to take collective action to address the intersectionality of structural racism and ageism. I am so grateful to Annie, Lena Macaron, and Nancy Lundenberg for leading us in this effort. I am hopeful that all of our members will join us in advocating for an equitable world in which racism, ageism, and the many other forms of bias and discrimination have no place at all. You know, we cannot choose the times in which we live, but we can decide what we do with the time we are given. Our patients who have survived illness, oppression, war, and even genocide, and our colleagues working on the front lines of the pandemic to care for older adults have taught us that every day. In this moment, we must come together in spirit and in action, perhaps more so than we ever have before. How did I come to be among the inspiring company of my AGS colleagues? Well, that journey was unplanned too, and if you really have nothing better to do, I'll tell you that story sometime. But one thing I can tell you is the take-home message that when I found myself surrounded by geriatrics healthcare professionals as I began volunteering with the AGS, I appreciated the constant support and encouragement from all corners of the society. I learned that the AGS works the same way good patient care does. We recognize the values of teams, diverse expertise, and making the older people we serve as our first priority. Like all of you, I find there would never be enough time to thank all my teachers, mentors, patients, friends, and family members for all they have done to help me to where I am now. But I also couldn't have done it without you, and I want to thank you all very much. I'm very pleased that in my first official act of AGS President, I'd like to introduce our newest Society Fellows. We award fellowship to colleagues who have demonstrated commitment to the field, have contributed to advances in care, and are active participants in AGS activities. Our new fellows over the past 2 years are Winalena Kanio, Anupama Gangavati, Daniel Mansour, Michael Mintzer, Rasha Nakla, Michael Silverman, Rebecca Stetzer, Liliana Andrade, Kamal Wagle, Mona Gupta, Deanna Fernandez, Todd James, Wayne Saltzman, Erica Tung, Miko Deshod, Lauren Gleason, Kobe Nathan, Abisola Musioye, Nimit Agarwal, Sevdanur Sisganer, Christy Hogue, Hamid Okravi, Vijay Periakoil, Aisha Rafi Peruz, Becky Powers, Christine Seal Ritchie, Heidi White, Blythe Winchester, Catherine Callahan, Gulnash Sharaf Salah, Sonia Rosen, Niranjan Tortala, Bernardo Reyes Fernandez. Congratulations to all our new AGS Fellows. Our AGS Fellows have reached new heights in geriatrics, but I suspect they would not be the first to tell you they couldn't have done it alone. Indeed, our seasoned leaders and mentors have played a critical role in shaping not just geriatrics and the AGS, but individual careers as well. In that spirit, we'd like to recognize several of those leaders who are stepping away from major roles or retiring this year. Our sincere thanks goes to these wonderful people. Cheryl Woodson, a geriatrics clinician, health systems leader, teacher, mentor, and patient and caregiver advocate, as well as an author of fiction and nonfiction and a popular speaker. Bruce Burton, a family physician and certified medical director with more than 30 years experience. Gary Salzman, a clinician certified in multiple specialties, an educator, academic administrator, and a medical director. Barry Reich, an internal medicine clinician, teacher, academic administrator, and researcher focused on the effect of technology on aging. And of course, Jerome Epplin, who's retiring from over 40 years of private practice in Illinois. I've been fortunate to work with Jerome as a member of the AGS Spears Criteria Expert Panel, and I know that we will miss his perspective as he is stepping away from his AGS leadership roles as well. We'd also sadly like to take a moment to acknowledge colleagues that we've lost this year. These include clinicians, researchers, educators, and advocates. Sadly, we lost 2 AGS members to COVID-19, Doctors Jeffrey Escher and Jermaine Denise Cummings. Both were working to take care of the patients that they loved, and we are so grateful for their service on the front lines. Jeff was a past chair of the AGS Council of State Affiliates and a current member of our AGS Ethics Committee when he passed. Dr. Cummings, who completed her Geriatrics Fellowship at Emory, was a rising star in geriatrics, whose life was cut short far too soon. This year, we also lost Rosalie Kane, a mentor and friend to many of us, working tirelessly with her husband, Bob Kane, to improve the care of older adults. We were also saddened at the passing of Dr. Kathy Heyer, who was a tireless advocate for improving disaster preparedness so that we could better serve older adults. Finally, we lost Dr. Patricia Good Culpepper, who received numerous awards recognizing her contributions to continence care and who held many leadership roles at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. We also must mourn the friends, family members, and patients that each of us have lost this past year. Our world was a better place for their having lived, and may our memories heal us even as we mourn our collective loss. And I'd like to pause for a moment of silence in their honor. I'd now like to adjourn the business meeting. You know, I wish we could all be together to celebrate the AGS dance party, which I understand Annie had re-envisioned in advance of the 2020 meeting. I was so looking forward to it. But that will need to wait until next year, I guess. I can virtually guarantee you that with Mike and I in the mix, we'll still be relying on Annie's 2020 vision in 2022. And I want to also virtually guarantee you that I didn't write that line. Although we won't be able to dance in person together this year, I hope you are able to take advantage of the educational and network opportunities that AGS 21 is offering. I know I will be. Now, the silver lining of a virtual meeting is that if 2 or more events of interest are happening at the same time, you can catch up on any content you've missed for 3 months after AGS 21 ends. And next year, we can all look forward to Mike Harper, handshakes, and hugs at AGS 22. That will be great. Thank you so much for joining us at this meeting, and I hope you enjoy it.